Hey folks, it's Dennis Gray and it is show number 67 of the Australian Rock Show. Thank you for taking the time to listen in. However you listen in, it is very much appreciated. Had a really great response from the last show, especially the interview with Dave Evans, which picked up a ton of press from around the planet via sites like Blabbermouth and Loudwire. Consequently, our download stats went through the roof, which is always very pleasing. Just goes to show you, though, that in 2017, there is as much interest in AC/DC as ever before. Okay, before we get into it, I do want to plug our comment line once again, which is 047 845 0747. That's where you can dial in, leave a comment, request a song, get something off your chest. You know the score. It would be cool to get a couple of callers in from outside of Australia too. That'd be really cool. So again, the comment line is 047 845 0747. Anyway, let's talk more rock. And if you want rock which gets you fired up and feeling great, look no further than the mighty Kings of the Sun. Their new album, Razed On Rock, has been out for a few months now, featuring a relatively new and muscled up lineup. We got drummer and band founder Clifford Hoad on the phone yesterday, and I know you all want to hear that. But before we get to that interview, you know it. Let's get in the mood by cranking some new Kings of the Sun. Here they are with the song Struck by Lightning. Hey Cliff, it's Dennis Gray. Welcome to the Australian Rock Show.
Dennis Gray. Pleased to be here, mate, and look forward to doing the interview.
The album Razed On Rock, it's been out for some time and getting lots of positive reviews all over the internet. Solid confirmation right there that you're doing something right, mate.
Well, I'll tell you what. It took about 18 months to get all those songs together. So, and I wanted to make an album that, you know, incorporated all the classic rock themes and didn't want to beat about the bush with you know, titles and things like that. So I realised that I grew up with rock and we were, you know, people who were raised on rock. You know, we all look back at that period and just love it, you know. So I suppose in putting an authentic album out there in tribute to that was the thing I really wanted to do.
So those a lot of those positive reviews are, I guess, further justification of that you were doing all the right things in piecing that album together and getting it out there.
Well, it's hard, mate, because people who love rock, I mean, they're all ages, but the majority of rock fans are people who grew up with it all over the last 30 years, you know, and all the classic bands, especially in Australia. Well, I've got an Aussie rock love affair, and I was trying to incorporate that, but also try to appeal to a younger crowd that haven't really been introduced to rock in the right way. So I sort of felt like if I got out there in a band and played great, and you know, like, because a lot of the younger fans that we have, they can't even remember the older songs. Do you know what I'm saying? It's sure. Like people, you know, there's kids out there who love Zeppelin, and they weren't around when that sound came out, but they can still, you know, relate to it today, and that's what I wanted with this is anyone, because it's the same ingredients, you know, it's just a different recipe. Cool
idea to have your son on the cover. He in turn is being raised on rock, I assume, pun intended.
Well, the funny part about it is I had an early photo of me at 13 or 14 behind a drum kit playing at a hall. I was in a band called Liquid Space, and that was my first like power rock trio. And there's a photo of myself behind this drum kit, and I love the photo because it's the only photo I have of me as a young man, you know, having a love affair with an instrument. And I thought that feeling, but I didn't want to use the old photo because it's an old Polaroid. So I just sort of tried to, I suppose, recreate that feeling. And when we set the drums up in that quarry, I also had it like a Mad Max feel about it too. And it's my the old Ludwig kit, and he was on there banging away in the quarry, loud as brass. And Lisa got a great photo of it, and I just thought that's the vibe I want. You know, when we were. It's how I remember being raised on rock, just like that photo. So,
am I correct in stating that you've got a follow-up album to Razed on Rock titled Playin To the Heavens due out later this year too, correct?
Absolutely, mate. It was actually recorded in a similar time frame, but we got the Razed On Rock out first, and I was going to put it out as a double, and I thought that's a waste. So, because they're two, I won't say separate albums, because they're done at the same time with the same lineup and the same recording process, and but I've had the last few months to do things that we hadn't done to it, like harmony vocals and things like that. So, best to bring out a second album, and it's like a fantastic that I was able to do that. So I love the both albums, and we'll be bringing that one out. Oh, I haven't really got a date on it, but there's no rush to, because it was a shock to people that I had another album.
Yeah. Well, it's good to be prolific. So is that being crowdfunded as well? I guess what those costs cover: mixing, mastering, promo, etc., etc.
That's all these days. There's no record companies unless you are more so high in the public eye or whatever. But yeah, that's when the crowdfunding finishes. Well, it's not really crowdfunding. It's just I suppose it is in a sense. But when that meets its quota, then I'll be able to do that. So it's basically up to the fans being able to, there's 30 people have their name on the album, and they get to see their name on the album and basically support, live and recorded, the ongoing thing of rock and roll, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Well, I had a listen to the snippet from the title track from the new album, which you sent, and loved it on first listen. Real heavy, hits you straight between the eyes, folks. You can find this up on YouTube if you search for Kings of the Sun and Playin To the Heavens. And I know we're not long into this, Cliff, but what the hell? Let's give everyone a quick taster from the upcoming new album with a bit of Playin To the Heavens right now. Cliff, if that's an indication of what the new album Playin To the Heavens is like, cannot wait to hear the whole thing. So is there a tentative release date you've got in mind?
Not really. Well, the last album we did, Razed On Rock, we released last October, which was last year, and really only gave it October, November, December. Only gave it really 3 months in 2016. So, you know what I mean? Any album that's released later, I could have waited till March or whatever to release it. But you know what? Back in the day, when bands were around, bands like Uriah Heep and all these, there was a lot of bands that were bringing out 2 albums a year because they were writing. And what do? Do you just sit on it? Like by the time you sit on tracks and wait too long, the things are just changing so quickly. Fashion, your own impression of the music, whatever. And by the time, if you wait too long, I felt that you won't get sick of it. And because other people haven't even heard it, but I just feel like as you write, it should be brought out. Even the Beatles had like 4 singles in 1 year at times. Yeah. So that was the whole, I suppose the thinking behind that is I had the songs and let's just record them and get them out there if we can. And that's just that's the only way I really can do it.
Well, I do want to drift back a few months, as you mentioned, to the Razed On Rock record, in particular the song Struck by Lightning, which we kicked this show off with. It's straight ahead rock and roll, which is right up our alley, with cool lyrics such as Black Ink Sky, Voice of Thunder, Thor's Hammer, Gonna Pull Me Under. That's going to one day be a Kings of the Sun classic. What's the story behind Struck by Lightning?
I don't know. I was walking along the beach and I'd had people say, you know, these storms and everything you got on the Gold Coast. I mean, the people getting killed by lightning up here, and I just thought this is a serious thing, you know. Like, we lost 3 people in 1 year, and then I was down on the beach, and then there was with Zen, and there was a lightning storm come up, and we had nowhere to run, and I was just trapped in it. We were just trapped in it, you know what I mean? I realised the severity of it. So I thought for people overseas who, you know, I just thought I wanted it's a dangerous song, and I needed a dangerous riff, and I've always tried to write another song like Drop the Gun. So I felt I wanted something similar, and then it just evolved like that. And the breakdown was like a storyline, and you know, I had things in mind like Thunderstruck after I wrote it. You know what I mean? AC/DC and just that TikTok rhythm, and yeah, so that's where that came from.
It works well. What about Black Dog? Again, heavy, raunchy, with more cool lyrics like "I'm going to keep on running till the nightmare turns to dust, scarred from the memory of a hometown bust." Where did that one come from?
You've been listening to the lyrics, eh?
Got to do your research, mate.
Oh yeah, Black Dog. Yeah. I got a dog given to me, and I've never really had a dog before since I was a kid. And I had a black dog when I was about 10, and I had this other little dog that was given to me recently, and he follows me around everywhere. And it basically just he inspired it all, and just that boogie feel. That I suppose is early all the years we played with Rose Tattoo. I just love Bad Boy for Love, and I just what it is with music. It's just finding a riff or a vocal line, and then the right time comes when it all falls into place, and all the little things that are in that song and the lyrics, and they're not none of it's necessarily hidden messages or anything like that. It just sort of, if it sounds good off the tongue, you write it down like a movie script, you know. So that's how I wanted. I wanted a storyline in all the songs, and that's what you're basically getting on Razed On Rock. I try to get a storyline in each of the songs and try and sing them so you're not searching for the words; they just sort of roll out. Because that's what I like to hear when I listen to, you know, Bad Company or somebody. You know, the vocals are up. And then you're not sort of being screamed at. You're just sort of feeling this storyline going along, you know. So
you produced Razed On Rock and wrote and arranged all tracks, which reminds me of a quote my brother wrote about you when he reviewed the Rock Till You Die album, which stated, "Don't make the mistake of pigeonholing Cliff with the one-dimensional just a drummer shtick either, for he is a multi-talented musician who sings the songs, writes the songs, produces the songs, and still plays the drums like a man possessed." That's hefty praise, and something which makes me wonder, Cliff, were you as hands-on production-wise, I guess, with that self-titled record from '88 and, I don't know, the Full Frontal Attack album?
Oh, absolutely, because I remember going overseas with very, very strong beliefs of how we should sound. And when you get signed by an American company, well, back then, you know, they sign you, and you almost got to be like the Young Brothers or the Bruce Brothers from the Angels. You got to stand defiant because they will try and change you. And we had we had pretty big time producers at the time. Eddie Kramer, who did Zeppelin and Kiss and everybody, and
sure.
And so the record company will try and change you to fit into a genre, you know, which is, and at that time, you know, the big hair bands, which we weren't, but we were still a rock band, and you had to be defiant in how long you wanted the songs, in which direction you wanted them to go, because these producers were such powerful personalities, they take it out of your hands. That's what happened there. So and I learned a lot from those producers, and just watched them. These guys were the best producers in the world, you know. So I just watched them and studied how they got the sound, and we knew what sound we wanted, but getting it's another thing, and I suppose that's the hard part. But when you're in a studio, the best studios in the world, because you know you're with a big company, you got to basically 6 weeks to do an album, and it's $1,000 a day sort of thing. That's what's going on, and you got everything at your disposal, but you still got to sound You don't want to sound too polished. You want to sound rough, but you don't want to sound like a demo. There's all these.
There's a bit of a compromise, isn't there?
It really is, and most bands go into the studio with this thing that they're going to be played on the radio in their head, but just to get onto the radio, it's in this day and age, it doesn't stand you in good stead. You just think that every song has to be chopped down to radio format and everything like that. So it's hard to pull back and go, you know what? When I was listening to the Zeppelin albums, or I was listening to Pink Floyd or whatever, it was a journey on the album, and that's what I've tried to create. And with a ballad or an instrumental or this or that, and because I love my music, and I love lots of different bands. So if you know what sounds good because I'm listening to records all the time and stuff that is very not necessarily that well known, unlike Bad Company. But I just try and take it all in and try not to rip anybody off and put it out as I hear it inside my head. That's what's happened from the early Kings days to now.
Well, mate, I want you to tell me more about the current Kings of the Sun lineup. Can I firstly just throw it out there and state that the Laurie Marlowe Cliff Hoad combination could, in fact, be the heaviest rhythm section in the Southern Hemisphere, maybe the planet. What do you reckon?
Well, playing with Laurie is something else. He's like this big, fat wall of glue that it's all encompassing. It just holds the whole band together. It's his style, and he rules that style. And there's lots of heavy rock bass players around, but he's very easy to play with. As I'm saying, the sound of the bass is so thick and fat that all the instruments sort of can sit on it like a big waterbed.
So do you think because of his experience that's the main thing he brings to the table?
Well, his experience goes without saying. As I say, he was one of the first guys with Heaven to go to the States in the early 80s and play with all those bands over there. I mean, he's told me stories that I haven't been able to believe. He's met everybody, Well, experience, he just knows how to play incredible rock bass, and he's got a great love of Glenn Hughes, who was in Deep Purple. I know where his influences are. You have to talk to him about it, really. But when he put the bass down because I had the tracks all down, and then he come in and just did all the bass in one shot, and it was a pretty big ask, and stayed here until he did it. And it's all consistent. Nothing's in question. It just all sounded fantastic. It suited the music, suited everything.
Did you ever see Heaven back in the day, Cliff?
Oh, yeah, we supported Heaven plenty of times.
Okay, you did.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. We would see those guys out there. Well, they as I said, they were on their return from the States at the time we were playing with them, and we were just a budding young band playing with anybody and anybody. So, and we were with Harbour Agency at the time, and we were playing sometimes 4 nights a week. That's when the scene was really lively.
What about the two guitarists, Rowie Wright and Shah Roxon?
Well, I mean, you can hear they play together incredibly well. I love the way. I mean, I just love I love their freshness. I love their enthusiasm for rock. They're not trying to be anybody, but how they play, you can just hear their understanding of what's going on. And Shah, she also has brought an element of the keyboards to the band, which I absolutely love because it's enabled me to go in slightly different areas, which I also love, and made my life a little brighter.
What about? Well, actually, I think having female backing vocals work really, really well and adds another dimension to the overall sound, and it's especially noticeable on the title track.
That's great, mate. Because as I said, I had to ask myself the question because it was a very male-dominated area that late '80s, and bands, and the thought of getting a girl in was like, oh, you don't want to do that. You'll end up sounding too commercial or whatever. So I had to. But she plays such great guitar, great keyboards, and the vocals. I mean, I used to do all the harmony vocals for Kings of the Sun, and I used to have to sing quite high, and she can hit all those notes and more. So it was. I suppose over the years, I just wanted to hear something the same flavour and same band, but just things come in and that enabled me to want to keep writing songs. You know what I mean? So you just can't keep writing, songs that are like this one or that one or blah blah blah. You've got to move in different directions. All musicians have that right to be able. And sometimes you bring an album out and people go, "Oh, I like that album better," especially with Bowie and people like that. "I don't like this album, but I like that album." People are fickle, so it's hard to keep that element that you got in your sound and not toy with it too much. I mean, the second album, the Playin To the Heavens album, is quite. I won't say it's different. It's as I say, it was recorded at the same time, but some of the songs on that are quite brave and go into territories which I've wanted to go in for years, absolute years. So I'm really excited about that Playin To the Heavens album because I love it myself.
Well, just drifting back to the self-titled track, Razed On Rock, that's the song we're going to end the show with later on. It's an autobiographical tune, correct? A look at your own rock and roll journey?
Well, yeah, that's how I felt it and have seen it through the years, yeah. I was talking about record companies, I was talking about backstage, I'm talking about all the cliches, people please. But it was all factual and all heavily from experience. That's what I lean on with the words. And if they so there's a point. There's the truth, and then there's fantasy, and that sort of thing. It's like pinning someone down and going, "What does this song mean?" Bruce Springsteen or something. I mean, there's elements of truth and there's elements of fantasy there. So
sure. You're
just embellishing a thing, So that's the magic of music and lyrics, and that's how lyrics stick in people's heads. Is just by the twist of a word and how it makes you feel,
Well, I think you've come up trumps with Razed On Rock. And, folks, this newish lineup of Kings of the Sun are firing on all cylinders, so make an effort to go and see them live. Let's just go over a couple of your upcoming gig dates. First up in a couple of weeks, Sunday the 23rd of April, you can get along to the Coolangatta Hotel. Locals call it the Coolie, I believe.
That's right, yeah.
To see Kings of the Sun and the Mighty Radiators. And if you live in Sydney, listen up. Of course, Kings of the Sun are on at the Bridge Hotel in Rozelle there on Friday the 5th of May. 2 days after that, Sunday the 7th of May, Kings of the Sun are on at the Clifford in Brisbane. Cliff, how long since you've played Sydney?
I think I went down there in about, it'd have to be 10 years. Yeah, it'd have to be 10 years because I went down to Melbourne with the Rock Till You Die lineup, and we did 3 shows down in Melbourne. And then we went over to Sweden Rock, and then the band fell apart, and I resurrected the band again and did these last 2 albums. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to going to Sydney because there's a lot of people that I know down there I haven't seen for a long time.
Let me hit you with a couple of random questions, then I'll let you get out of here. What were some of your favourite Sydney venues to play back in the 80s?
Well, everybody raves about the Mansell Room being like the most
hallowed ground.
Yeah, there in the Cardoma, they were always so much fun, and they always had the late night vibe of a band coming on stage. There was no big PAs or anything like that, but everyone was pushed right up the front, and it was exciting playing those places back then. There was many other great gigs around. I used to like the Tivoli. I had some good gigs played there. That was in George Street. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's a car park now, I think, something like that. Anyway.
Many gigs. I've nothing but fondness for all the gigs we played. Sydney Cove Tavern. There was just so many of them, and all the clubs out west. And
like a lot of people, I saw you guys a lot back then, including the now infamous Guns N' Roses support in Sydney, and even the day after. Yeah, even the day after, a bunch of us trekked out to a place in Western Sydney called Berkshire Park for an outdoor gig, which was a great day. The band got plenty of work back in that era, didn't they?
Oh, of course, yeah. Well, we would come back. We'd come back from America, and we were here for a month or so over Christmas and whatever. So they would give us all the gigs, and we'd go up from Mooloolaba all the way down to Warrnambool, and then do in 2 weeks, and then do as many shows as we could, and then go home and have a break for a week or two, and then we'd go back to the States at that time. Yeah.
Looking back for a moment on those late 80s years where the band really were on the cusp of bigger things, would you have done anything differently?
Would we have done? Looking back, would I have done anything differently? I mean, we gave America a pretty good nudge. We were over there for 5 or 6 years on and off. Music changed so quickly in the early 90s that we could have chosen to change with it. You know what I mean? And become a little bit.
Have you and Jeff in flannel?
Yeah, but after that period, I mean, we didn't really want to become something that we weren't. So, and now I can't say we could have changed anything. Maybe done Destiny's Destiny. You know, like there could have been different supports and things that we could have gone on, but. You know, especially I would have preferred to have, when I think about it, is gone to Europe again. Once we were dropped from the label in America, if we'd gone back to Europe, because I think they were a little bit less inclined to be so judgmental about rock. You know what I mean? I mean they still love their rock.
So 2017 looks set to be a busy year for you in Kings of the Sun, and as you mentioned, the band have always had a solid following in Europe. I know you played Sweden in 2014.
Yep.
Any interest from promoters with this new lineup to do a run of shows in that part of the world?
Well, as you know, lots of stuff's going down over there at the moment. It's not a great time to take a band. I just heard that Phil Rudd's gone over there with his band for a 3-month tour. I mean, that's a long time to be playing. I'm more, yes, absolutely, and we've had many offers to go over there. It's just lining them all up. I mean, when we were back over there with Sweden Rock, it was one in this country, one in that country, and then obviously you got to get there, you know, and it is a smaller area to travel, but it's got to be feasible, and you got to live, and you got to have somewhere to stay and all that. So, looking very much in the future of especially when they get this next album out. And have the band play locally and in Australia, because I've had so much feedback from Aussies who were around in the day like yourself and who are still interested in music. And I mean, there's only so much you can keep putting the old albums on. I think I'm even like that with my bands that I loved. Like if Bad Company came back out here, I'd go and see them. You know what I mean?
Sure.
What's left of them, or whoever it is, whoever you loved. You know, to be making new music is hard, because let's face it, if you've heard a song for 20 years, you're gonna grow with it, and then you hear a new song that could be great. That's why I got a kick out of you saying you liked Struck by Lightning. It's hard to grab that impact if people aren't hearing it on the radio 3 times a day.
So for our European listeners, fingers crossed. You never know.
Oh yeah, mate. Yeah, definitely. And I know Laurie wants to go back over there, so he's keen to get back over there and get amongst it all. I think it'll be around in Europe for a long time. Rock, you know. I don't think it'll ever go back to how things were. But even when we came back to Australia, music had changed drastically. There was no real, all the early bands really had to pull back because there was such a different scene out here. You know, bands like Powderfinger had come in, and all those Silverchair and all those bands. It had completely changed. It wasn't just America; it was everywhere. So I think once the rock has come back, with a vengeance, because nothing else has really replaced it. And it's how can you argue with that? You know, if whether you like it or not, these artists can keep coming up, like AC/DC, how they can just keep coming out with music, and people are are still ready to listen to it. I mean, it won't last forever, but it certainly is still happening at the moment.
Cliff, thanks for coming on the show. And the current album is called Razed On Rock. The soon-to-be-released album is called Playin To the Heavens. kingsofthesunband.com, that is the best place for listeners to visit. If people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way they can do that?
Oh, Facebook is probably the easiest way. I just say that now because so many people ask me that question. I just say Facebook, and that's the most easiest and the most legitimate way, I suppose, without having to worry about anything.
Is Razed On Rock pressed on vinyl?
No. Look, that's one thing I would, if I would have kept going with it, if I had crowdfunding, I would have probably gone for that. A fellow from Czechoslovakia wanted to produce about 250 copies. But it all looked great until I had to get them back here. And then the postage is so ridiculous and so heavy that I'd have to end up charging $40 to $45 for an album. And the fear of having, 200 albums under my bed that never sold was too great for me. If I'm in a position to ever do it, the last, all three of them will go onto vinyl. And there's a couple of people who are starting to do it out here. I was told the other day, and I've got their number, and you may be able to do a run of 50 for the fanatics, because there are people out there like myself who just love to listen to vinyl. I don't really listen to anything other than vinyl. I'll listen to a CD or something digitally or whatever, but I prefer to buy something on record.
I hear you, mate.
I'm living in the past, mate.
Mate, every guest on our show gets to choose a song. Can be one of yours or something which has influenced you. What would you like to hear and why?
I'd say probably the greatest rock song ever written. I'd love to hear Smoke on the Water from Made in Japan, Deep Purple.
Yeah, we can get a hold of that. Why did you choose that?
I just think something happens to people when they hear Smoke on the Water. It's like a joining of the masses. It just brings people together, and there's many people out there. I mean, we've all heard it 1,000 zillion times, but it just personifies rock, I suppose, to me. Other people may have other songs, but that one does. Blackmore at his greatest, Gillan, Ian Pace, just the whole thing. I'm even maybe thinking of doing it as a cover. So it's a hard song to do, but we'll see how we go.
Thank you once again. Good luck for the remainder of the year, and keep in touch.
Thank you very much, mate. It's been a pleasure.